Okay, current juniors, next year's senior class, we are here to talk this morning about the registration process for you next year, again, as seniors. We're going to go over some stuff over the next 20 minutes. You should have some items that were just handed out to you by your teacher. Those items should be at least the following: your course catalog, your current transcript after trimester 2 grades are in, your course request worksheet, and a series of other flyers. What I'd like to primarily bring your attention to is your course request worksheet. If you could please pull that out and put that on top, and then ideally be working through that as we go throughout the slide presentation here, working with a pencil and making notes for yourself or things to consider, things of that nature. Should make this very easy for you. We're going to go step by step through all the courses you need to take next year, that you might want to take, that you might want to look into. It's your senior year. You're going to have some flexibility with regards to electives. This is going to be a great year to try some different things out and maybe even spark what could potentially be a career pathway for you. So, with that being said, please have your course request worksheet in front of you. The online course request process is open now, and you must complete that by the deadline. Take a look at all your materials for the deadline. You need to have your course requests in by that point in time. Let's begin with kind of where you should be at. This you can find on your transcript. By the end of T2 of your junior year, which is where we're at right now, you should be in the ballpark of 160 credits. By the end of this year, you should be finishing out around 180, which makes it a very easy 240 to finish up and graduate with by the end of next spring. If you are not in those ballparks, you probably have already or will continue to be speaking with your counselor. They are going to be a great resource for you to get things set up for next year, whether that be distance learning through something like BYU, taking adult ed here in town, or taking summer school as early as this summer. If you are not on track with the pace that you're seeing up here, please make sure that we're getting there so we're making next year's life as easy as possible. The graduation requirements, not going to go over all of this, but these are the different categories and departments around campus from which you must acquire a certain number of credits in order to graduate. We're going to talk a little bit later about foreign language, visual performing arts, and CTE and some of the changes that have occurred there. Other than that, most of this should be review for you. You've been looking at these kinds of courses and these kinds of numbers since your freshman year. Okay, moving on to our first category and our first subject area, which is social science. You'll have a minimum of 2 trimesters of social science next year as seniors. One of those will be in the subject area of civics, and the other of econ. You do have an AP option next year in which you can spend some time with AP Gov, and then that bleeds on over into econ as well in the 3rd trimester. See your course catalog to compare these course descriptions. But you will be needing to sign up for civics and econ next year. Our next subject area is in English. Next year as a senior, you're going to have quite a bit of variety with regards to the courses you select, but keep in mind that you need to select 2 of them. They do not follow the same kind of correspondence and order as English has for you in the past, where you'd have, say, English 11A and then English 11B afterwards. You could have any of these courses in any combination of trimesters. So you could theoretically have English 12B before you have English 12A or Shakespeare or short story or whatever it may be. You could have 2 of them in the same trimester. You may have them split up or any other combination. So don't get freaked out by that, but you must select 2. And when you're registering, you must select 2 alternates specific to your senior English. Different than the other alternates you take, you must select 2 additional alternates for English in case you don't get it. So if you wanted to do English 12A and satire next year, you would also need to choose, okay, what are my backups if I can't get into those 2? Okay, I'll go with mythology and fantasy sci-fi. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. In addition to these courses, you also have 2 AP options available to you next year, either AP Lang or AP Lit. If you want to know the difference between those, look at your course catalog or speak with your English teacher. Regarding English proficiency, this is not a new thing for you guys. You've been here for 3 years. You know that if you are quite simply not up to par with where you need to be with your reading and writing in English, then we are going to help you with that with English Workshop. If you are not at the level you should be, especially after the English LPI, the Literacy Proficiency Index that's assessed this year. that will end up determining your final placement, and if you need English Workshop, that will be added to your schedule. If you think that you do not need English Workshop next year, you select that as one of your options when you are making your course selections. With regards to math next year, the graduation requirement here in this district is 20 credits of math you must get through Algebra 1. Colleges are requiring at least 3 and recommending 4. So as you can see, the recommendation for you as students is to take math every year. If you choose not to take math next year but are going on to a junior college or a 4-year college, you are going to have to take some sort of math entrance exam. And if you haven't touched math all of next year, that's going to be a difficult kind of step back in when you're a freshman in college or going into your freshman year in college. That's the reason we are recommending you take math here, because you're going to have to take it at the next level, except for you pay for it at the next level. Okay? If you're wondering which math you should take on next, ask your current math teacher. It's the best place to start. And also, of course, review the math course section of your catalog. Science next year. We're going to talk first about life and then about physical here in just one second. Your life science options are listed here before you. Many of you have made your way through this, particularly biology. You must have at least 1 full year or 10 credits in one of these life science fields for graduation. We also have an interdisciplinary science in AP Environmental Science. That meets both a life and a physical, or I should say, a physical. And there's also a seminar for both AP Bio and AP Environmental Science. Moving on to physical science. Your graduation requirement, again, is another year here. For many of you, that's going to be chemistry, but not all. These are other options that also satisfy those requirements. Very important when you're taking a look at science that you keep in mind, just like math, most colleges are going to want to see 3 years of math, not just the 2 that we require for graduation. Something to keep in mind as you decide what you may or may not want to take next year with regards to science, all depending upon where you think you may want to attend school next, a year and a half from now. Okay, world language. Let's talk about world language, CTE, and visual performing arts. Those are going to be the next couple slides here. Each one of between these 3 subject areas, you need to have a total of 30 units for graduation. Now that can come in a couple different ways. That can come from 10 units of world language, 10 of visual performing arts, and 10 from CTE, or it can come from some combination of 20 and 10, or theoretically 15 and 15. The key is you must have at least 15 units, or at least 10 units, excuse me, from 2 of these subject areas in order to meet the graduation requirement. However, with that being said, let's start off with world language. Colleges want to see 2 years, and they want to see 2 years of the same language. So keep that in mind as you are, again, crossing into senior year next year. What is it you need to be able to fulfill that for colleges? Visual performing arts, again, same as we were talking about with world language and CTE. You've got to get a cross-section of these disciplines. If you're confused on this, or I'm not making sense on this presentation here, take a look at your catalog. It's outlined in there for you as well. Okay, this is where you guys are really going to start getting, heavy into a lot of the courses that should be taken based upon your interest level. And next up is CTE, or Career Technical Education. Again, these 3 categories, visual performing arts, world language, and CTE, between them, 30 credits total in at least 2 of the disciplines. Colleges would like to see you have a full year of CTE. Lots of courses here, lots of things to select from. Just to name a few: robotics, machine tool, auto shop, web page design, video game design, and tons more. Take a look in the CTE section of your course catalog for a full bevy of the options that are here before you in both CTE, visual performing arts, and world languages. With regards to PE next year, most of you have passed the fitnessgram. However, if you have not, after this spring, still passed the fitnessgram, then you will need to be enrolled in PE for 2 trimesters next year. That will include, one of those 2 courses will be PE2 with conditioning, along with one of the following. Okay, so if you've not passed the fitnessgram or don't complete that this spring, you'll need to still take PE next year as a senior. Speaking of things in the PE department, if you are an athlete at this school, our coaches strongly recommend that you enroll in human performance At bare minimum, we believe that you should be in there the trimester before the season of your sport. You're a basketball player, you got to be in there in the fall. You're a baseball guy, you need to be in there in the winter. You run track, winter, so on and so forth. Get in there, get stronger. It is not a boys-only course, quite the contrary. All of our athletes will benefit from core strength, explosion, and being overall stronger athletes. In this broad category of electives, any academic class over and above your graduation requirement rolls over into your elective category. And then, of course, things such as the CTE courses, human performance, video production, all the things that we've kind of already begun to make our way through, any of those get funneled into the elective category once you've satisfied the graduation requirement for that category. As I mentioned before, use next year to really explore new elective areas and see what things can marry your interest level and your skill set with potentially something you want to study or get trained in or have as a career at the next step. There are electives not just in the categories that we've discussed, but also in social science, in our business department, in English, and many others. Take a look at those. Spend time. Really, this is the most flexible year you have in your 4 years of high school. Take advantage of that and really explore the options that are before you. Another great example of exploring options is through ROP courses. Okay, these are courses that are focused with an occupation focus rather than necessarily an academic. Doesn't mean there's not any academic work to them, but they're very much focused on getting you ready for an occupation in a particular field. Often many of these take a lot of time and time commitment. Some of them include travel. So as you're looking through the ROP section of your course catalog, make sure you're taking a look at these different ones, and if they spring interest to you, like cosmetology held at Dublin High, take a look at the time commitment that requires, not discouraging you from it, but just be aware of it, and then know that it also is going to come with travel as well, as do many of the other courses. I've listed just a few of them here for you, but you can find a full course list in your catalog beginning on page 20. If you're headed to college next year, there's a number of dates and deadlines that you need to be aware of. Not that you need to memorize these right here, but I just want to point some of them out for you. Some of these begin deadline-wise as early as October, November, with things such as UC or Cal State applications being due online. So this information can be found on the Counseling and Career Center website. You can also follow them on Twitter for lots of reminders, but here's just kind of a flash in the pan for you, reminders of some things that are important for you next year as you're wrapping up your senior year. Speaking of options, there are certainly different things that you will be eligible for to take on next, college being one of those. Obviously, there's a variety of factors that go into that. You're meeting with your counselors and have been for several years to make sure that whatever your goals and aspirations are regarding college you're staying on track to meet. That is certainly just as true this next year as you register for the courses as we've talked about and prepare for the next step. Make sure you're keeping that in mind. Some of you will be going on to the military. Make sure that you're communicating with a recruiter and the Career Center with the things that you need to tackle if you are seeking a career in the military directly out of high school. Next year will be filled with a pretty solid booking of testing for you, not so much in the school setting as you've been used to in the years past, but in this case, testing for the next level, whether it be the SAT, ACTs, single subject tests, or the ASVAB for the military service. Make sure you're staying in touch with your counselor and are aware that a lot of these exams are coming your way. Speaking of college, if you're planning on attending college next year, make sure that you're registering for at least 4 academic courses throughout next year. We highly recommend that you spend time between now and next spring going and visiting potential college campuses in which you think you want to attend. Or if that's not possible, hop online. Many of the universities now have virtual online tours throughout their campus, so you can see everything from dorm rooms to classroom settings to the basketball arena, all digitally online. So take a look and start to really become informed on where you think you want to go. Also, next fall, we will have a senior parent night that will answer these and many more questions that you or your parents may have regarding college application and that process. Let's talk about IWE Tutor or TA for next year. You will be able to sign up for these 4, okay? And you will be able to sign up for TA, but only if it is your 12th course. In other words, you can't select 10 courses for next year and then select TA twice. So if TA is your 12th course, then you will be able to select that, but that has to be the minimum number of courses you've signed up for. All right, when it comes to selecting your courses, you've got a lot of these things in front of you, but when you're at home, hopefully tonight or recently or soon, and you're signing up for all this, I would encourage you to pull these same things out: your course catalog, your 4-year planning sheet, and your course request sheet. You're going to need to have your student ID, some web access, in about 15 or 20 minutes. Now let's go ahead and take a few minutes to review specifically just the online registration process. All right, Granada, this is a brief tutorial about the online course selection process that begins today. I want to walk you through these steps. It's the same as it has been in years past, so I just want to bring a couple things to your attention, and we'll be moving on. First, beginning here at the home page of Granada, I want to bring your attention to the Resources tab up top, and the very first icon, the Course Request and Registration. That brings you here to this page. It has a lot of information and a lot of materials, most of which you have right there in front of you and were pointed out before. Also, the tutorial that you're watching is listed here, specific to each one of your grade levels, if you need a reminder or you want to sit down with your parents or something of that nature. You also can log into PowerSchool directly from here. Your PowerSchool login is the same as it is currently. Nothing has been changed there. That should be your user ID and then the password that you currently use. Once we log in, it brings us to our home page. We're going to be dealing with the tab over here on the left-hand side called Class Registration. When we click on that, it often takes a moment to load. And this should look familiar. Again, this follows the same format as your course registration worksheet, which you have in front of you, starting with social science, English, English proficiency, math, and so on. Now, next year's, since you guys are freshmen, sophomores, juniors, next year's sophomores, juniors, seniors, there's some slight differences, but again, for the purpose of this, since we've been through this before, I'm just going to briefly remind you of some basic things here, and then you'll know how to do it specifically. To select your courses in a given category, you select on the pencil over here to the right, and again, what I would encourage you to do is from the get-go, hit the number button. That will organize your classes by numerical number. For each one of these windows, you have some information up at the top that will help explain what you're looking at, and they also have what you need to what you're required to do in order to satisfy this particular area. You'll notice that once I've done what I'm supposed to do, or what I have to do, which is in this case select U.S. history options, my red exclamation point turns into a green check mark, and I'm okay to move on. You'll see that the same thing happens out here, and I have my 2 courses selected there for U.S. history. I'm going to continue this process all the way through selecting electives, selecting alternates, so on and so forth. What's very important is I get down here to the bottom, I'm going to go back through and I'm going to count how many courses that I have selected to take, not including my alternates, but courses that I'm selected to take, and I'm going to select that number there. Again, your key is that throughout this process you are looking to satisfy each one of your requirements and turn that into a green check mark. That will finally turn into a green check mark at the very bottom, and you'll hit submit. A reminder, this has to be done in one sitting. You can go back anytime over the next approximately month until April 11th when this closes. You can go back in anytime and make changes to this, but you can't do this process partially. In other words, you can't just do the first 4 or 5 areas and then stop after you're done with science. You have to satisfy and get green check marks all the way down and do it in one sitting, otherwise it will not save your selections. Okay, after that brief brush up and reminder on the registration process, if you have further questions, please remember on the resources page of the GHS website, that's the upper right hand corner, first box, you can watch the tutorial you're watching right now, along with all the other supplementary materials you have in front of you. All those are in digital form right there on the website. If you still need help choosing classes or with the online registration process, again, start by taking a look at the information under the Resources tab. Many of your questions may be able to be answered there. Counselors will also be meeting with many of you individually by the end of the year to go over your course choices and make sure that you have everything you need. Any necessary changes to your selections can be made there in that process with your counselor. Please make sure you're taking time when you're going through this process, looking at what you want to take, making sure your 4-year plan is complete, making sure if you're headed off to college, those are complete, making sure your high school graduation requirements are complete, and then sit down and spend time choosing wisely what you want to take next year. You must have at least 11 5-unit courses. Okay, that's a 4, 4, 3. And of course, no more than 15. Please make sure that you go through and you take time, especially next year when you can have a lot of flexibility in your schedule. It's all the more important for you seniors to take the time to select your alternates wisely. They may pop up on your schedule because of something else you weren't able to get into. So choose those with intention and purpose. We've been saying this for a number of years, but it's still important, and that is, please remember that the course choices that you make are yours. We build the entire school's master schedule based upon your requests. So like I mentioned before, the alternates are important. They may be filled into your schedule, so choose them accordingly. Also remember that both parts of an A and B course must be completed in a school year. It's not 2 different courses, it's 1 course. So you may not drop portion B of a course. All right, lastly, select your courses carefully. Schedule in August will be according to what you select now, and therefore, outside of an error on our part, changes to your schedule will not be needed or allowed. Please remember a variety of ways that you can stay in touch. Our website also has a ton of information and resources for you and your folks as you go through this process. Thank you for your attention. Again, please direct questions first at the website, and then from your counseling career center or your administrator from there. Take care.